Hello, this evening we are going to revise area and perimeter because this is something that will come up on your quiz. Tomorrow we will be looking at symmetry, so if you finish this early and you want to have a look at symmetry, then have a look at some of the Education City games on there, and we can go through that tomorrow evening. So when we're looking at area and perimeter, we need to know what those two things mean. The area of a shape is how much space is inside the shape. So for example, if this was a football field, I want to know how much all this space inside the football field is. The perimeter is how far it is around the outside. So if I started here and I walked all the way along, all the way down, all the way back and all the way up, that would give me the perimeter of the shape. In this case, when you are given a shape and you are given it on squared paper, the easiest thing for you to do if you have no measurements is just to count the squares. So this rectangle has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 squares on this side, which means it must have 7 squares on this side because these two lines are the same length and they are parallel. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 squares on this side, which means it has 5 squares on this side because we learned that these lines are parallel as well. Some of you might also be thinking, as well as an extra fact, that these are right angles, and you would be correct. To find the total perimeter, you need to just add your sides together. So 5 add 5 is 10, 7 add 7 is 14, and 14 add 10 is 24. Now, if you're given no unit of measure, so it's not in centimetres or metres or millimetres, you can just write P equals 24 as your perimeter. If I was asking you to find the area of a shape, then I would ask you to multiply. So I'd say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 along, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down. Now, if I was to put my actual lines in, if I was to make you see all of the squares in this shape, like this is what my multiplication is going to do, but in a really quick way. So it's asking you that if you could see all of the squares inside the shape and you were doing them much neater than I'm doing them, how many squares would there be? So instead of adding all your different rows together, 7 and 7 and 7 and 7 and 7, you know that there are 7 rows and 5 rows down, so you can just multiply that together. 7 times 5 is 35, so your area equals 35. Now we practiced a few weeks ago that when we write the area, we have to put the little 2 in the corner to remind everybody that we're talking about area. We're talking about how many squares, not the perimeter. So that is a really important little number to make sure that you add on. Okay, what happens, for example, if you are not given any squares and you are given measurements? You have to be given at least 2 sides of a rectangle in order to find the perimeter, and they have to be 2 different sides. So if you were given this side as 5.5 centimetres and you were given this side as 2 centimetres, then you would be able to calculate to work out the perimeter. If you were just given the 2 parallel sides, you wouldn't be able to do it because you need to have one of the shorter sides and one of the longer sides. Because you have this information, you now know that the parallel sides of each will be the same, because you know that a rectangle has 2 sets of sides that are the same. So you can add those in, and then you need to add all of your calculations together. So you know that this side and this side is going to make 4 centimetres. Then you've got this side and this side. If you're using a decimal number, then we can focus on the learning that we did yesterday. So you can add your units together first, which is always the column that is on this side of the decimal place. 5 and 5 is 10. So you've got 10 centimetres, but then you've got a 0.5 and a 0.5. Now most of you are starting to get the idea that that is 5/10. That is half of a whole. So it's not a whole extra centimetre. Here it's half and here it's half. So if we add 0.5, add 0.5 together, we get another 1 centimetre. And if we were to add all of those together, we would get 10, 14, 15 centimetres for the perimeter. P equals 15 centimetres. If you were to be asked the area of a shape like that, you can actually figure it out. In order to figure it out, you could do grid method. It's exactly the same to do grid method in order to find the answer with a decimal number. I can show you that now really quickly. So you do exactly the same as you would normally do when you're doing your grid method. You build your grid like this. You are timesing 2 digits, 5.5 times 1 digit. 5.5 times 2. And you multiply exactly the same. You find your answer. And then all you have to do, because you've got one decimal jump there from a tenth to a whole, so you've got one decimal place, you just have to start at the end of your number and jump your decimal place back in so that your answer becomes 11.0, but we know that that answer is actually 11. Okay, the next thing that you're going to need to be able to do is have a practice yourself. Oh no, there is one more thing. Sorry, my apologies. So what happens if they ask you to build a 2D shape and all they've done is given you the area? So for example, a question might be, can you create a rectangle that has 16 squares inside? This is where your times tables comes in. Now you could think straight away, okay, I know my times tables because when we're doing area, remember, we are timesing to find the squares in the middle. So you might know that 4 times 4 equals 16. If you were to draw that out, one side is 4 and its perpendicular side is 4. You would think, okay, great, I've got a 2D shape. There are 16 squares inside, but this is a square and they've asked for a rectangle. So what you're going to have to do is think again and think, what other calculation do I know that makes 16 if you multiply the two factors together? And we know that 2 times 8 equals 16. So if we make one side 2 and the next side 8, then that will give us a rectangle with an area of 16 squares. It doesn't matter if you do 2 down and 8 across or 8 down and 2 across. It will give you the same area. So this is something that I would like you to have a little practice at for your quiz. These are the 4 questions I would like you to try out. Move this across. Number 1, I'd like you to draw a square with 16 squares inside it. So the area of the square is 16. Number 2, what is the perimeter of an equilateral triangle? So think about what an equilateral triangle is. If one of the sides is 4.5 centimetres, so you could sketch that out and add in that side. Number 3, could you draw a rectangle with 48 squares inside it? So the area inside is 48 squares. And number 4, what is the perimeter of a rectangle if one side is 16 centimetres and another side is 8 centimetres? All of these questions, it's really important when you're using shape to just sketch out the shape, even if it's not perfect, just to help you to understand what you are looking at. So have a go at those and we will practice again in our maths lesson on Thursday. Good luck!